Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second Pink Talk. Let me remind you what Pink Talk are. We gather every 2 weeks to talk through all things feminist. Today we talk about period stigma and poverty. And I am very thrilled to introduce you to our guests, our special guests and experts. On board with us, we have Danielle Keiser. She's a bridge builder and collective impact in the world of menstrual health. Danielle uses her expertise and network to help the public and private sector to see the menstrual cycle as the foundation and entry point to addressing female health across the life cycle. Danielle helped launch and grow Menstrual Hygiene Day. It's 28th of May with WASH United. She also recently consulted for UNICEF to help lead the first cohort of the Duke UNICEF Innovation Accelerator. She holds a bachelor in politics with sociology from the University of California and a master's in global visual communication from Jacobs University in Germany. Then after Danielle, we have Magda Demczak. Magda is a young period poverty activist from Poland and a first-year student of international politics and policy at the University of Liverpool. She's also a co-founder of Akcja Menstruacja, the first Polish charity tackling the issue of period poverty. In 2019, at the age of 18, she and three of her friends noticed that period poverty was a huge problem in Poland, but no one was talking about it. So 4 girls established together a project donating menstrual cups to over 1,000 people in need. They also helped women in Cameroon and Indonesia. Now, Akcja Menstruacja is a legal foundation with over 16 members and 50 volunteers, supplies hundreds of Polish schools with free pads and tampons. We also have Ankita Gupta with us. She is pursuing her PhD in the Department of Modern Indian Languages and Literary Studies in the University of Delhi, India. She has been conducting research on the menstrual discourse in India for the last 5 years, where she has focused on various aspects of tabuification of menstruation in the religion, media, literature, cinema, education, culture, and language. In the last 2 years, she has conducted various workshops on menstrual health, taboos, and myths in underprivileged areas of Delhi. And she has also conducted an open mic event on menstruation called Rajaswala that gave a platform for creative expression on menstruation. Art, photography, poetry, theater, games, and anecdotes. Those are the first of its kinds in the academic space of Delhi. She is also editor of 2 books on Indian literature, one of which focuses on issue of gender and sexuality. And we have also Zakira Mahomet with us. She's from Minya Foundation. Zakira is a South African businesswoman, social entrepreneur, and founding member of Minya Foundation, an NGO that keeps girls in schools. By using her business as a means of creating awareness and making a difference in the young lives of the less fortunate. With humble beginnings and working from the back seat of her car for a few years, Zakira has grown her business into a reputable brand-conscious company. Zakira was also awarded the Woman in Business 2015 award by the South African Turkish Business Association of South Africa. This is evidenced in her latest venture, the Minya Menstrual Cup, which is a product designed to ensure that teenage girls at school are given the opportunity to rise above their circumstances. The Minia Cup has been specifically designed with teenage girls and first-time users in mind. So you are all very welcome. And as first one, I'd like you, Danielle, to ask you to talk more about your experience in the field of menstrual poverty.
Sure. Can you?
Yes.
Great. Well, I'm delighted to be here today and to see all the people who have joined who are interested in this pink talk on mental health and period poverty. This has been kind of the center point of my professional career since 10 years now, with helping start and launch Menstrual Hygiene Day back in 2013, and since starting the Menstrual Health Hub, which is a global collective impact organization that's intended to bring together the entire menstrual community worldwide, so anyone working on periods anywhere. Yeah, I don't know where you'd like me to begin, but back when I started working in this in 2013, no one was talking about this issue whatsoever. People would say, I'd say, oh, I work on menstrual hygiene. I'd say, what? Mental hygiene? No. Menstrual hygiene, and I'd have to explain what that was. And I think we've come a really long way since 2013 in terms of not only the language around it, terms like menstrual health, period poverty, menstrual equity have become a lot more commonplace in discussions around gender equality and female health, and it being this crucial entry point. So I think we, as a community of feminists and entrepreneurs and advocates and researchers and people working in the public and the private sector, really have a lot to be proud of and excited about, because this progress has really taken place over the last 5 to 10 years. But that being said, I think it's really important to acknowledge that people have been fighting for menstrual rights since the 1970s, and even maybe before then. The Society of Menstrual Cycle Research, which started in the United States, really put this top from back then. So I think it's really important for people to acknowledge the kind of path been paved by people beforehand, and know that we're standing on the shoulders of incredible, mostly women, but also other people, men and supporters who have enabled us to kind of come as far as we have.
Okay. Danielle, can you tell us more about your menstrual health hub, what it is and what it takes care of?
Sure. So the Menstrual Health Hub is an online platform for people working on the topic to kind of check in, and it's kind of like a database and a data bank. And this year we are working to improve it, and we'll be launching a LinkedIn Lite for the menstrual health community. So any of you out there that are working on menstrual health or periods or period poverty, you should definitely register for the website and get on the map so that people all over the world can identify that you're doing this great work where you are. The purpose of it is to be able to professionalize this sector. So for many years, and still right now, this is kind of a segmented and siloed space. A lot of people don't get paid for their work. A lot of people are doing this because it feels good, and they see this as a real crucial element of being able to achieve more gender equal world in the future. But this means that we need to professionalize this space. Just like in the early 90s and 80s, the HIV and AIDS space was very disorganized, and within 10 years, it was really able to professionalize with a really strong research base, and a lot of investment was driven into this space. The same thing is happening with the menstrual health day. So the Menstrual Health Hub is intended to professionalize the sector, and we do that through an online database of knowledge around 4 areas, which is research, education, policy, and innovation. So on here you can find, or you will be able to find soon, anything, research about girls who have missed school, menstrual cup usability, research around disorders like endometriosis and fibroids, etc., ranging to policy. So we have a comprehensive overview of who's doing what where around the world with regards to policy, in addition to the over 826 organizations now that are currently registered in the platform. So our hope this year is to launch a upgraded tech version, so that more people are able to connect with each other without having me introduce them, because that's what I spend a lot of my time doing, and create this robust, free to access data bank of knowledge and database of contacts.
Well, I still think that there is a lot of to learn when you come to visit the website of Menstrual Health Hub. For example, what was interesting to me, it was the fact that menstrual health is not only connected to the health of people who menstruate, but also, for example, to environment or technology. And if you could elaborate a little bit on that, please.
Sure. I'm really happy you asked that question, because most of the time when people think about working on period issues, they just think, oh, you just throw some sanitary pads at her and problem solved, right? No. Menstrual health is omnipresent. From menarche to menopause, women, girls, and people who menstruate are menstruating for this long period, up to 40 years. So during this time, the menstrual cycle is happening. Menstruation is just one of the phases of the whole menstrual cycle. So the cycle is always on for these 40 years, and that means that it has everything to do with every part of our lives. You could connect menstrual health to everything. You could connect it to diet. You could connect it to work. I mean, if women or girls are in too much pain and they can't do and participate in society, whether it's working or going to school, then it becomes a problem. A lot of menstrual disorders are caused by estrogen dominance and diet, and so this kind of affects the food that we eat and what's inside of the food that we eat. Menstrual health is very clearly associated with or aligned with 8 of the Sustainable Development Goals. And, the most important one for us, of course, is gender equality, but it also is a matter of water, sanitation, and hygiene, of quality education, of, decent work and economic growth, and then also partnerships, which is where we really come in strong as well, which is goal number 17. So I could talk all day about how important menstrual health is, but I'm sure everyone wants to hear from the amazing local panelists, since I bring this global perspective of connecting all of these different organizations and the larger issues, language and how it's formed over the last few years, and how important it is for us to be using menstrual health and the same terminology to drive this forward as a pivotal element of being able to achieve gender equality and improve female health.
Thank you, Danielle. So maybe for now, I'll ask those local activists you mentioned to share their experience, but feel free to comment or add as well as the other experts, please, to the things that other experts will say. And now I'd like to ask Magda to share her experience with Akcja Menstruacja.
Hi, so as Gosia said, my name is Magda and I am a co-founder of Akcja Menstruacja. It is actually the first charity in Poland who tackles the issue of period poverty in our country. And I would like to start by sharing our story, because I think it is quite interesting and it can be quite inspiring. And I hope that at least one person will get inspired today. So everything started when I was 18 years old, and me and my 3 female friends, we were seniors in high school at that time, and we saw this short clip about homelessness and menstruation in New York City. We were deeply shocked, and we felt so privileged. that we wanted to, explore our horizon and explore the issue of period poverty. So we naturally Googled period poverty Poland to check some statistics, some interviews, or articles about period poverty in our country. But unfortunately, we weren't able to find a thing. But at the time, we kind of realized that if something is not mentioned online, it does not mean that the certain issue does not exist. So we thought to ourselves, okay, we are young, we are just teenagers, ready to start our studies, but it is time for us to raise our voices and start our actions. So that's how we established Akcja Menstruacja. First, it was just a small project. We set up a small fundraising to buy 1,000 menstrual cups and to donate them to women in need in Poland. And actually, we end up funding twice as much as we thought we'll fund. And we've heard so many amazing stories from women in Poland who were fighting period poverty, who were struggling with period poverty, that we realize that we need to act more and we need to legalize our actions. And that's how our organization was established. Until this day, we are fighting with period poverty in our country, but not only in our country. We were vocal in Cameroon, we were vocal in Indonesia. We have many projects, and I don't have enough time to mention all of them. But for example, we are supplying over 400 Polish schools with menstrual products such as tampons and pads. And during our work in those schools, we've heard so many shocking, so many inspiring stories. We heard a story of a young teenagers who uses socks or cotton balls to protect their clothes during their periods. And we are talking about Poland, the country in the middle of Europe, when girls need to use their socks or cotton balls instead of pads. We heard stories from teachers who have extra drawers full of pads, so their students, their pupils can use them to protect their clothes and to go to school freely. And actually, Poland is a very specific case because I don't want to say that we are very conservative, but it is a quite conservative country. And Catholic religion is a very important for most of Poles. So of course we notice a lot of criticism. We have a lot of face comments on a daily basis, especially coming from middle-aged women, which is quite shocking because you would think those women understand the pain of having a period, the pain of the lack of menstrual products, because most of them grew up during the communist era when pad or tampon was really a luxury, and you weren't able to buy a pad in your regular local store. But reality is quite different. But on the other hand, we're not making fun of those haters. We understand them kinda. Because we know that there's still much to do, and we still need to educate Polish society to understand that period is just a normal thing, and you shouldn't keep your period to yourself, and there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Thank you, Magda, for sharing. If I may ask you, because I looked for your crowdfunding page, and it is quite awesome to see how much money did you gather. And can you share, because you all do that by yourself, yes, you and your friends. You have like a foundation consists from 16 people, 16 workers, let's
Numbers,
say, and 50 volunteers. So tell me, because like it's a quite spectacular success when it comes like to 2 years 2 years of work. So tell me, what do you attribute your success to?
Well, For certain, we are not shy to speak up about menstruation, and I think it is our main success that we stay vocal, and we are not ashamed to, to go to public broadcaster, to the TV or newspapers, and ask them, "Hi, would you like to write an article about period poverty, about menstruation in Poland?" And of course, those people would say, like, "What are you talking about? Don't we wouldn't broadcast a news about periods and about period fundraising." But there always be this one person who will agree to stay vocal and to write an article about you. So I think this is our main success. And on the other hand, we have an amazing followers. We have a few thousand followers from all over the world. And I think one of the most important things that you can do in terms of period poverty and in terms of activism in period poverty is to stay educated and to comment, to repost, to follow, to share an amazing content about menstruation and period poverty. And I think we got a bit viral in Poland, and not only in Poland. And that's how we established what we established.
Okay, so to sum up, it would be speaking up about those important issues, right?
Yeah, like, don't be ashamed to speak up about menstruation, and don't care about those haters.
Thank you. And also Danielle commented that where there is a poverty, there is period poverty, and that it cannot be separated from the larger socio-economic picture of lacking essential goods and services. Would you like to add something, Danielle?
Sure, thank you for that. It's really interesting because the term period poverty only really emerged in the last few years, and it's really kind of like a sensationalist term to get people excited about this topic. But I think what we need to remember is that when anyone's living in poverty, they're also not able to afford period products or have challenges around their menstruation. The development sector has been working on this, area in places like East Africa and India and other less developed economies. And it was really focused on menstrual hygiene management and being able to access both facilities and services, and then also products to be able to manage the menstruation. So I don't know, I think it's really important that we use words that are true to what it is that we're doing, and kind of understand the power that they have. If we're working in this space, period poverty is good to bring people in, but then it's important to actually have those harder conversations about menstrual health and menstrual equity, and not just kind of oh, those poor girls. It's a larger issue. Why are tampons or pads so expensive? Why aren't they covered by food stamps? Or why are they being taxed at 27%, which is the case in some European countries? So I think it's important to use it in as like a reel, but know that that's just the beginning of a much larger and much more complex socioeconomic and systemic question.
Okay, so we are coming back to that fact that the menstrual health is connected to a lot of other issues. But I also think that's what Akcja Menstruacja does, because when you visit their fan page, they speak up about taxes and endometriosis, for example, too.
Yeah, actually, last week we established our small project about endometriosis, and we're just shocked how little Polish society knows about endometriosis. So we also care about educating our society, because we know that there's a lot to do in Polish society, especially because there's a lot of taboo, there's a lot of stigma in Polish society when it comes to period itself. And there are, like, most families don't speak up freely about period with their children, especially when it comes to boys. There are very, very little talk with boys about menstruation. And I think it's important also for a boy to know what menstruation is, because every life is based in periods and a menstrual cycle.
Actually, I didn't manage to invite any of the doctors, but I think it is also an important issue of the knowledge of our own bodies, of the people who menstruate, because some of the health issues are very connected to menstrual cycle, and they are not so very obvious ones, even like the psychiatric conditions. So yeah, that I wanted to highlight that. However, I'm not a doctor to speak about that, and just to bring up how important it is to bring awareness to those topics. Magda, would you like to share something with us, or for now, are you okay?
Well, I think I'm okay. If you have any other questions, or if anyone has any other questions, just please ask me.
Okay. So I would like to remind that the viewers have the possibility to ask questions too via comments. So if there is something that you would like to ask, feel free. And now I would like to invite Ankita to speak a little bit about her experience.
Hi, thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank you for this opportunity to be able to speak on a platform with people who are doing such great work in the field of menstruation. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I'll begin by introducing myself. I'm Ankita Gupta, and as the host of our event said, that I've been working on the field of menstruation and research associated with menstruation for the past 5 years. And I've been looking at the different discourses that are connected with menstruation, such as literature, religion, language, media, cinema, and all the other social aspects. So I think it would be interesting if I begin my conversation by sharing a few instances of things that have been happening in India with respect to menstruation in the last 2 years. So I have some news articles that were published regarding the various instances that will actually highlight how severe the condition of menstruation as a discourse is in India and how much we need to work for it. So very recently, this news article came out about a small place in Maharashtra where in the sugarcane fields of one of the districts, the women laborers are supposed to get rid of their uterus so that the contractors give them a job. Now, the contractors in this place, they say that women during their menstruation need to take leaves in order to take rest for 1 or 2 days. And because they cannot afford these leaves, at the same time, the contractors have some limit of time and in which they're supposed to finish their assignments or whatever. So they basically ask the women to get rid of their uterus. So what they said in the news was that the women are doing it voluntarily, but when the women were talked about it, they were told that it's become a norm there. If you get a hysterectomy, the contractors pay you money for the surgery, but later on they start cutting it off from their wages. So basically, it's not a choice, because if you want work, you'll have to get rid of your uterus. Okay, so this is just one of the instances. Then another instance was we have heard of stories from countries like Nepal and even many parts of India where menstrual seclusion is a very common scenario, where during menstruation, women are asked to step out of their house, stay in isolated places, maybe in the forests or outside the villages where people cannot come in contact with them. So at this time where the urban spaces in India are actually starting to talk about menstrual poverty, menstrual health management, and so many other things, we have this incident in Uttarakhand, one of the states of the northern parts of India, where without the permission of the government, somebody erected a seclusion building sort of a place for the women to rest there for the 4 days that they're menstruating, and so that nobody has to touch them, and they claim that they are, untouchables. Similarly, one of the most shocking instances that took place in the recent times, in the Gujarat community, we see that women are not supposed to come in contact with food during their menstruation. So people are not supposed to eat together with women who are menstruating, or eat foods that is cooked by women who are menstruating. So in Gujarat, in one of the university hostels that's run by a temple charity, the principal of the college asked 60 women to strip off their clothes just so that they can check their underwears, whether the women were menstruating or not. And if they were menstruating, they would be asked to leave the place where everyone consumes their meals in the hostels. So these are just like, few of the instances. There are innumerable instances. So what I'd like to add on to this is that what I've studied in so far, I feel that we cannot say that menstruation per se is a taboo entirely, because in the last a few years, a new vocabulary has been building up around menstruation, where instead of using the word stigma or the word taboo, a few researchers are suggesting that we use the word etiquette, because some beliefs are very contradictory in nature, because they may appear that they are positive, but they're actually negative, and some of them, they have some ritualistic importance in culture. For example, in Assam, we have a community where the women, they, as I mentioned before we began this chat, they're supposed to exclusion during their first period, but we also have a temple that is dedicated to the menstrual goddess Kamakhya. So within the Indian context, you have various religions like Hinduism and Islam, Christianity. But Hinduism is not very simple. You have Brahmanical Hinduism and you have the Shakta tradition, where the mother goddesses are prayed to. So in the temple of Kamakhya, you actually have the figurine of the goddess sitting in a squatted position, and her vagina is visible, and they smear the vagina with vermilion as a representative of a menstruating body of the goddess. And what they do is that at the time of, it's considered that during the whole year, there are 3 days when the goddess is menstruating, and so they shut the temple. Nobody from outside is allowed to enter the temple. The priests inside the temple give a proper wash to the goddess idol, and only after 3 days, other people are allowed to enter. But again, there is a contradiction, where on the one hand, you have this celebratory tone of, celebrating the fact that there is a menstruating goddess. The men come in, they touch the vagina part of the goddess and take blessings. At the same time, any woman during her menstruation is not allowed to enter that temple. If you go and talk to the priests in the temple, those women are not allowed to enter inside if they are menstruating. So you have many instances like this. Now, the discourse of menstruation actually came into a lot of focus in India with the release of one movie, which is called Padman, which is the autobiographical story of a man from the southern part of India who initiated a project where he wanted to introduce low-cost sanitary pads to women in his family, because he saw them suffering using, dirty cloths and, having all those superstitions about menstruation, not touching one another, not entering the temple, staying separately from the house. So he felt, the women in his house were suffering a lot. And then he realized, when he went to the market, he realized that the cost of a normal sanitary pack is so expensive that the women in the rural parts of India cannot actually afford it, because if they, decide to buy a pad, they have to compromise on their daily ration or their food. So this sort of revolutionary, idea of producing low-cost sanitary pads was a very inspiring story, which came into the limelight on Indian cinema. And before this, nobody was actually, very openly talking about menstruation. Of course, there were agencies who were, smaller non-governmental organizations who were doing their part, in spreading awareness in rural spaces, in, distributing sanitary pads, and all of that. But, to be able to talk about it openly, that too, there is a man who is doing it, was very, very, out of the comfort zone for the people of India. So from my experiences in the field, I realized that, there were two kinds of responses to that kind of cinema in India. We had, fewer of the younger generation menstruators who believed that this actually helped open a discourse in their family, because when they finally went to watch that movie with their children or with their, mothers, they actually knew how to initiate that conversation, before which they were very hesitant to talk about. And then you had the women from the older generations who felt that, this is such a taboo topic. It should not be talked about in front of the family, especially the male members. So this sort of thing, it kind of started bringing the conversation around menstruation into the limelight. And then on the one hand, you have this, superstar on television talking about menstruation, and then you have various policies coming in. With the implementation of the new tax system in India a few years back, suddenly we started noticing that there was, a very heavy luxury tax being imposed on the sanitary napkins in India. So there was a very, strong protest against it, that, sanitary napkins are not a luxury, they are a necessity. So because of that movie, it sort of helped open up the discourse on menstruation in our country. But then again, I find it very strange, because the idea of a menstruating woman is very, very imprinted on the psyche of the Indians, because one of our epic literatures, that is Mahabharata, the main protagonist of that literature is sort of molested by her brother-in-laws while she is menstruating. And you have this long-going, TV soap, which is popular all over India in the 90s, and everybody's watching it when the television came in India, and everybody's sitting with their family and watching it. But nowhere in the entire episode, when the woman is molested, do they show that she was actually menstruating. And the entire discourse between her and the elders in the assembly where she was being molested, she kept asking that, don't you feel ashamed to molest a woman, especially in a condition of her menstruation? But, the media completely shunned the narrative of the menstruating woman from the psyche of the Indians. And when you actually read into these literatures and you go into these things, you realize that, something that was so powerfully questioned in one of our, Mahabharata is sort of like a religious kind of a very holy kind of a book in our country. And, we have this very important woman who's talking about menstrual discourse, but nobody in the country wants to talk about it. So this kind of, thing was going on in our country. And particularly 4 or 5 years ago, I had the opportunity of witnessing a play in which the character of this woman actually questions, why do I have menstruation for 3 days, and what have I done? Why do people treat me this way? So that is how I actually got intrigued and started pursuing this research. And over the years, my research sort of twisted from the realm of religion to literature to cinema, and now have moved on to the realm of language. So very often when we started talking to people about menstruation, we realized that people were not very comfortable in using the scientific term menstruation, or even the local language terms that refer to menstruation. They would always use some sort of code word, some sort of indicative language. So I started trying to look at the politics of how the language is so, in the grasp of the politics of how the menstrual discourse needs to be kept like a secret, that people don't actually want to talk about it. And that's when I started conducting workshops in underprivileged sections of Delhi, in slums, in areas where migrated laborers, tribal communities from different parts of India are living, and they're pursuing, menial labor work here. And when we went and we conducted workshops with them, we had very interesting interactions with them. Like the girls, they only come to know about it because now it's become compulsory to distribute sanitary pads in schools, but their mothers have never talked to them about it. We have also spoken to the boys in the slums of Delhi, and even though they were very aware of these things, because some of them had really good teachers who took the initiative to talk about it, they always felt that never in their house environment or among their friends did they have that kind of opportunity to talk about it openly, and for them it's always a mystery. So from these instances, we sort of realize that we really have a long way to go. And simultaneously, we have a lot of researchers who are now trying to pursue, as Danielle said, that the sustainability is a very important issue. So they're now trying to pursue, as I mentioned in one of my narratives, see, in India, we have this issue that we're already a very poverty-stricken country. And the advent of the advertisements that started with the narrative that sanitary napkins are better than cloth sort of misdirected the attention from personal health and menstrual hygiene to commercialization of menstruation. So instead of telling them that, you can use a cloth, you can use a cotton cloth as long as it's cleaned and it's, dried properly in the sun and it is free of bacteria and germs, they started spreading this false narrative that, cloth is a very problematic thing and it will harm the body. It was harming the body because so many myths are there and so many, these taboos are there that, you cannot dry it openly, or women don't know what to do. They don't have access to clean clothes, so they'll just tear off old shalwar kameez or old quilts and old clothes. So very recently, what I realized was that probably the women in the urban sector have now become so used to the plastic pads or the easily degradable, easily disposable pads, that it's very difficult to bring them back from disposable pads to reusable, biodegradable, sustainable products. But women in the rural sectors and the underprivileged sectors who are still on the verge of change, probably they are the ones that we need to target right now, so that a sustainable kind of menstrual health management can be encouraged. And we can, initiate this change by going, and it has started happening. A lot of agencies are doing it. We can initiate this change by, not only telling them to use the cloth pads and the reusable pads in a proper manner, but also letting them, teaching them how to make these pads, so that it's also a form of employment for them. So yeah, I guess that's all I would like to say.
Thank you very much for your social perspective, cultural perspective. I found it very interesting when you mentioned that movie that changed a little bit narrative, but also you have conducted like an open mic event. It was a cultural event about menstruation. Can you share us a little a little bit how it worked. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so thank you for bringing this up. Actually, before I conducted the event in my academic space, I attended 1 or 2 open mic events in the non-academic spaces where people would just conduct small events in cafes or small bookshops where poets and artists and singers could just come in and share their creations on menstruation. So I thought that first of all, menstruation and menstrual research, particularly from the social perspective, is very limited area of research that has been explored in India, and a lot of work is still beginning to happen. But one of the things that I noticed was in my university in the last 10 years, I have been in the same university from my undergraduate. I never ever came across a single event in the academic space that was, dedicated to sharing creative ideas, art, and just experiences around menstruation. So I wanted to sort of encourage this kind of interaction and again bring to the limelight that menstruation is not something that is only limited to the biological or the physiological or the health aspect. There are so many other aspects of menstruation. So that's how I decided to do this event, and I chose the name Rajaswala for the event because in the mythological and the religious scriptures of Hindu tradition, the Rajaswala is a very negative term. It is used for a menstruator, but it is used in a negative sense in that the word Rajas means somebody who is overpowered by passion, who has a lot of negative energy, and they're controlled by their emotions, and they do not have the rational capacity to think because they are in their time of menstruation. So I wanted to reverse the narrative of the term Rajaswala, and I wanted to give a positive connotation to the word. That's why I introduced the event with this name. And then we had few poets who came with their poems in Hindi and English, and we had a group of college students who did a small performance on the kind of issues that girls face in their houses on a daily basis when it comes to menstruation. We had few professors and few students who shared, incidents and anecdotes from their own personal lives, things that they've observed in their own families and communities with respect to menstruation. And we also initiated, sort of a free conversation on menstruation by conducting a session on games related to menstruation. So we wanted to include men and non-menstruators in the event. So we sort of, wrote terms associated with menstruation and had them enacted out and sort of made them guess what it was, so that more people start to realize that all the things that happen during menstruation, the premenstrual syndrome and all the other things, they're very normal and common, and we need to stop demonizing the female body, the menstruating body. And I think we were very successful in that because I have now we are now in the second stage of Rajaswala. We are doing the second event in February, and this time the event will focus on menstrual research and how we can approach the discourse of menstruation from different disciplines, delimiting it from the sphere of social work, biology, and moving it into the realm of humanities, technology, and whatever, all other disciplines possible.
Thank you very much, Ankita. Also, during your speech, you mentioned the fact that the menstrual hygiene product should be sustainable. So that's how I would like to jump to our speaker, Zakira. Zakira is a founder of Minia Cup, and now the microphone is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for having me. I'm just honored to be part of this panel, and I just want to congratulate all you women for all the amazing work that you're doing. The more I go about doing the work that I do, I realize that the problems are the same in all our countries. It's shocking to hear that there's period poverty in Poland, because you think in Europe there's no such thing. I know there's also period poverty in UK. It's all over. You just think it's only in Africa or India or parts of the East, but it's everywhere. And I think together we can end period poverty. And I'm honored to be part of this panel. But to share my story with you, in about 2014, I was sitting with a group of women, and August usually is Women's Month in South Africa. And in Women's Month, we usually, a bunch of women get together, they try and raise funds, because they only became aware in the last few years that girls are missing out in school because of periods. So they cannot afford sanitary products, they have no means, they're using, like Ankita says, leaves or dirty rags or grape leaves, sand, all those things that we've heard about. I mean, and the fact that I'm hearing today, so every time I hear something new that shocks me, hearing that women are willingly getting rid of their uterus so that they can stay at work, I have no words. I have no words. I'm still trying to understand that. So what we did, we started at this table when we're trying to raise funds to keep girls in school because they're missing out on schools. There's a lot of poverty in South Africa. There's a lot of girls that are from child-headed households. There's a lot of girls and boys who have no parents that have died because of HIV. So they're being taken care of by their grandmothers, and usually they have like grandmothers looking after 10 or 20 grandchildren at a time on a little grant. And the choice is between buying a sanitary pad for your 3 or 4 granddaughters or buying a loaf of bread for the family. So the stories are the same. And when I was at this table trying to raise funds for Women's Month to donate sanitary towels for girls in need, a friend of mine mentioned a menstrual cup, and she said something that just stuck with me. She said that this cup can last for up to 10 years. And I thought, well, if something can last up to 10 years, why are we raising funds for men's sanitary towels that's a monthly cost? But I didn't have enough information on what a menstrual cup was. I was terrified of what it might look like. When you think cup, you think a huge mug you have your coffee in. So I did some research and discovered that the menstrual cup was invented in 1932, the same time as tampons were commercialized. And it's a sustainable, healthy, environmentally alternative to managing periods. So I asked 2 of my girlfriends to join me. We started an organization called the Mina Foundation. Mina means me in Zulu. So we decided we will go to schools and organizations and shelters, because there's a lot of gender-based violence here in South Africa and the rest of the world. Example for now, I mean, during COVID-19, all of us were in lockdown, periods in lockdown. Women from gender-based violence survivors were stuck with the perpetrators at home, so they were not safe. There was nowhere to go. And we as a foundation went out to shelters because schools were closed, and we started talking to women about different alternatives. So what Mina does is we go to schools, we go to shelters, we go to landfills, because that's where most of our period products end up. And sanitary towels, as you all know, take 500 to 800 years to biodegrade. They have chemicals in them that can cause infections. So there's so many unhygienic ways of girls managing their periods is one thing, but the products out there are not all healthy for your body. And the worst part is they're killing the planet. So with all the research that we've done, two of my girlfriends and I formed the Mina Foundation. We started visiting schools, we started visiting whoever would listen to us, corporate companies, telling them about the different alternatives. So we go to schools talking about sexual reproductive health to girls, giving them an opportunity to ask us the questions about period, what it is, how your body changes, what it means when you have a period. Are you ready to have sex? Are you ready to have a baby? Sexual diseases, not diseases, infections that come with having sex, what to do if you're in trouble or you have no one to ask questions to. Because what we realize is girls are getting the information from their peers because periods are not a comfortable topic to talk about. Even moms are not comfortable enough talking to their daughters about periods. Men don't talk about it. And we as the Mina Foundation wanted to make periods fun. We wanted to make periods happy topic to talk about. We wanted to involve men and inclusive of all, all menstruators, lesbian, gay, transgenders, whoever menstruates. We wanted to be there to help you through this journey of becoming a woman and celebrating becoming a woman. And we started by talking to men, to help us spread the word, to reach more, because if you get more men on board, it seems that things go faster. So we visit schools, we talk about sexual reproductive health, we give the girls a Mina journal, and the most important is Mina is a character. So she's this little African girl that walks around the communities in the village. She's smart and she's confident. She wants to stay in school. She wants to come back and give back to her community. She wants to change the world. She wants to participate. She lives with purpose. So Mina, I think because the menstrual cup also is such a taboo product in terms of different cultures, we had to start talking to grandmothers and fathers and girls and boys, and even like the middle-aged women, like Magda said, is shocking, their reaction to periods. But we decided we will talk to you anyway. We will address those questions. For example, if you insert a menstrual cup into your vagina, does it mean you're breaking your virginity? So we address those issues because there are so many cultural taboos, and there are cultural taboos. But by means of education and awareness and discussions and activism and, just giving the mothers and the fathers and the grandmothers, whoever's out there who's willing to listen, the opportunity to ask questions. And when you answer them and you sound so logical, you win them over, and they give you like permission to introduce the menstrual cup to their daughters or their teenagers or whoever is in need. So what we do is we don't say that the menstrual cup is the only alternative to menstrual health. When we go to schools, we're talking about, for example, your washable pads that are out there. We're talking about pads, your normal pads. We're talking about tampons. We're talking about menstrual cups. We're talking about even your rags or your stones, whatever girls are using, because it's a common discussion all over wherever we go. And we're saying, based on ABCD, based on the fact that the cup has no chemicals in there, like some of your tampons or your pads, the fact that it's a sustainable solution, that it can last for 5 to 10 years, the fact that it's pain-free, the fact that it allows you to participate in sports, the fact that it saves you so much of money that you can spend on, whether it's a loaf of bread or something that you can save for yourself. We are girls. We always want to save something. We always want something nice or something pretty. So Mina is this bright, happy person who walks around the community. Approximately 65,000 menstrual cups. to all those in need across South. I got cut. Hello. Hi. Hello. Lost. Hello. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello. Hi. Hello. Hi. Okay. So I thought you couldn't hear me. Okay. So because I can't hear anything. Okay. So in the last 5 years, we turned 5 in May this year. We have distributed approximately 65,000 menstrual cups across Africa mostly, but also in Zimbabwe, Mozambique, where there are lots of refugees. And we have partnered with numerous organizations. And the most important thing I think I wanted to say is that we don't force girls to use the cup. We give them an option to use, but we talk about all the alternatives that are out there. And most of it is like we're having fun. We go back for feedback. We go and find out how many girls are using the cup, and we go to rural areas. So whether you at a school under a tree or in a classroom, we go back for feedback. And in our experience, most of the girls have at least 90% of them are using the menstrual cup and love it. So that's our story in a nutshell. But the most important thing also is that we are addressing a lot of sustainable development goals. We've been working with like Global Citizen and other organizations doing similar work and trying to reach more through the partnerships that we have formed. And that's the MENA Foundation in a nutshell.
Very much for sharing your story. Can you tell us a little more about the process of production of the menstrual cup in Minya?
So MENA, this is MENA, you see? Okay, so we also, what I failed to mention is that we are a group of women that that manufacture our own menstrual cups in South Africa. And the process is, it's a silicon, it's a big automated machine that just arrived during lockdown. And we decided that we're not going to sit with this machine and not do nothing because it's lockdown. We somehow got it to work, and we started producing our own cups. So it has like 2 silicon cylinders, like A and B, medical grade silicon. It goes into this injection molding machine through the pipes. I wish I had a diagram to show you. And into the pipes and out, the mold opens and closes, and out pops these menstrual cups. And we can do like over 10 or 20,000 a week. And yeah, that's a new experience for us. We become women industrialists in manufacturing in South Africa, which is a big deal now. But the great thing is that every cup that we donate or that we sell, I made it myself.
So thank you very much. I was wondering if whether you would like to add something, or other participants, if you'd like to comment on the speeches of other experts, feel free. Yes, Danielle?
I am so excited to meet all of you. I've been working in this space for a long time, but there's no end to how many amazing women and menstruators are out there working on this topic. So I hope we can connect maybe personally in the future. I wanted to ask, just like having worked on this for a long time, last year and COVID now still, and so many girls being out of school and women being home, there's like a upside and a downside to this But for people who work in social impact work, it's almost like all of the progress that's been made is like really hard to couple with now, because schools were this entry point to being able to deliver education and also deliver products. And so how are you coping with your menstrual health efforts and actually being able to reach girls and women where they are, which is most of the time at home? You know, we can't go into people's homes and you know, say, hey, have you talked to your daughter about menstruation? Or, hey, Dad, have you talked to your daughter about menstruation? We can't do that. You know, and I would really love to hear any inspiring examples for how you've been able to make those touch points in light of the fact that life has paused and we don't have these entry points right now.
So I can tell you about me. What we have been doing here is the MENA Foundation. During lockdown, the gender-based violence cases went sky high. So a lot of women were sheltered in homes, of places of safety, women and children. And what we did was we contacted them and we explained who we are and the fact that these women we want to take away the financial burden of menstrual cups, because they're reliant on their perpetrators even to buy something as basic and as personal as a sanitary towel or a menstrual health product. And we have visited over 10 or 20 during this lockdown period, and we have continued. We're going to be doing the same thing this year because the schools have been closed. And so we visited shelters, places of safety. We have been visiting landfills. Of course, we are following the COVID rules, social distancing. We're doing all our workshops outside. We do not distribute MENA without a workshop, because we don't want it to sit on someone's shelf. We want to give you the education, the awareness. We want to give you your options. We're not forcing you to use it. But so we sit outside, we maintain social distancing, everybody's masked up, you know, taking care. But so visiting shelters, visiting landfills as well. So everything happening outside as well. And then slowly some of the colleges have started opening towards the end of last year. So we started going to those places. I'm not sure yet about schools this year because there has been a delay in South Africa. So schools will be opening on the 15th of February instead of in the next, they're supposed to be open already. But I'm focusing mostly on shelters and other places where there's definitely a need. I mean, we have only started distributing in one region of the country, and there's 9 regions to take care of. So we're not stopping the work that we do. But in the meantime, we've been visiting orphanages as well. We get a lot of emails from children's homes. So, you know, we kept busy because there's a need for it, and we are getting invited, and we are being told where there's a need. And that's what we have been doing during COVID, and we haven't stopped. And the other thing is we're still not stopping. We're still making a lot of noise. For example, just before COVID also, you know, we felt like periods are not a luxury. We shouldn't be paying tax on it. So the South African government has now period products are tax exempt, but there's a lot of other things we need to do. So slowly but surely, I think, yeah, you just find where there's a need, and people let you know. People call you and they'll let you know. Then, I mean, the stories are not pretty. They're horrific. Some days you can just cry. You know, I mean, you'll just cry all night one day and get up with some strength to go and fight this fight because it's your thing. It gives you purpose, you know. And I think the thing for me is that it's something so basic, and we shouldn't be punished for having a period. I mean, wow, I can create life through my body. Why am I being punished? I should be worshipped, right? So it's just having the conversation and making periods something easy to talk about, especially with men as well. I mean, I have young male champions. My nephews and my nieces, you know, all know about MENA. They all know about periods. We make it easy to talk about. When I find you know, my husband knows all about cups. We talk about it every day. My brothers talk to me about periods, but it's also how you approach the topic. It's how you introduce it to someone to make them comfortable to talk about it. You know, you can put me in a room full of men and I'll talk about periods with them, and they'll sit there fascinated because they want to hear what you have to say, because no one talks about it so openly. So we need to involve those men who can take it further, also help us take it further, because we do need them. Patriarchy is a real thing. You know, if patriarchy left us behind, patriarchy will take us forward. Someone needs to open the door for you. So don't, you know, yeah, we need help. And if we can all end period poverty together, help each other wherever we can, why not take the help where it is? So that basically that's what we have been doing during COVID. I don't know if anyone else can share.
Magda, I hear Akcja Menstruacja got some kind of donation right now, like from Kulczyk Foundation.
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me. I think you can. Yes, we've got a huge donation from one of the biggest organization in our country. And before COVID, we wanted to even expand our programs in school. But then, you know, COVID came, pandemic came, and we had to figure something out. So we established those small boxes, those metal boxes, and we placed them in different public spaces, like houses when you can get help, you know, homeless shelters, and they are full of period products, also menstrual cups and sustainable pads. And you can anonymously, you know, take as much as you need whenever you need. And they are like very important right now because we cannot reach everyone because of COVID, because of the pandemic and the virus. But also we also wanted to educate people despite the COVID. So we moved to internet, and we had the opportunity to even educate prisoners, female prisoners in Poland. We had this small discussion with them. It was an amazing experience, because when it comes to prisoners, there's also a huge issue with period poverty, because very often periods of prisoners synchronize when they are in the same cell, and they're usually in Poland. I'm speaking about Poland right now. Usually they have only 3 packages of pads for the whole cell of 6 women, for example, and it's not enough. So we had to also discuss with them about period, about how to take care of period, how to take care of menstruation, because for most of those women it was the first time when someone was speaking to them freely about what they are experiencing each month. We've heard so many amazing stories. We've heard so many sad stories. We've heard from one woman who was 20 something years old that she never was able to speak with her mother about period, and actually it was her first time when she said period out loud. So thanks to the internet, we got the opportunity to you know, to also help people during COVID and expand their knowledge about menstruation and period poverty during COVID.
Thank you. Ankita, would you like to add something?
Particularly, I want to actually point out the issues that have come up during COVID in India. So 2-3 things that came into notice was because the lockdown that came in India was a very hurried decision. Nobody took into consideration that the survival kit for the people of the underprivileged sections actually required sanitary napkins. So for a very, very long time, they were not even talking about menstrual hygiene with respect to those who will now not have access to it because they're not going to school, or those who were getting it from local NGOs who were distributing it on a daily basis in the underprivileged areas. So it sort of slipped their mind that this is something that needs to be taken into consideration. And I think after 2 months of the lockdown and a lot of protest in the media and a little bit from the people who were social activists, they sort of started taking this into consideration and started incorporating that into the survival kits. And another issue that we face here is since the doctors working on the front line, they're supposed to be wearing the PPE kit throughout the day when they are taking care of the patients. So the women nurses, they're forced to wear diapers for the whole day because they cannot remove the PPE kit during their interaction with the patients. So during menstruation, it's very difficult because, you know, you need to change the pad at some particular time, otherwise there's a risk of infection. And additionally, within the PPE kit, there is so much issue of moisture and, you know, the developing infections and things like that. So the nurses have started talking about it in the media, but really there's no much action being taken in this regard. So yeah, that's there.
Thank you. Also, Danielle shared with us article resources about menstruation and COVID crisis, and I will share them because after the debate, I will make a post with your social media, your web pages, so that our listeners, viewers may explore them. And I will also add that the one that you shared with us, Danielle. Thank you.
This can also, so this is a great resource that has been kind of collectively assembled by a lot of people working in MH at this time. So it's kind of a living document. So feel free to share it around. It's kind of compiling all the resources and research that's come out, whether it's high up in UNICEF or, you know, on the ground. Also, it might be good to add this webinar to it because there's a section at the bottom for webinars that talk about MH and COVID. So we can, you know, build as we're doing, so to say.
Okay, thank you very much. If any one of you would like to add something, then of course I would. Yeah,
just I forgot to mention as well that Daniela, when you were asking, we also donated quite a bit of cups to medical care workers for the very same reason that Ankita just mentioned now. You know, just so that yeah, they could take care of us and take care of themselves as well. So I forgot to mention that, but yeah, very key as well.
I think that during our conversation, what we heard that when it comes to menstrual poverty, it's not only about the lack of the menstrual hygiene products, but also about bringing awareness, and that it's a very difficult job. And I admire each one of you for doing it. But it also requires the whole community to work together because it has an influence not only on the lives of the ones who menstruate, but like the whole societies. So if none of you would like to add anything, yeah, Ankita, yes?
I just have a question for Magda. You talked about the condition of menstrual poverty in Poland. Like, you know, people were not even talking about it. But are there any particular cultural practices with respect to menstruation in Poland?
No, there are no, thankfully. At least not that we are aware of. But when it comes to Poland, the biggest issue is the sexual education. Our government criminalized sexual education a few months ago, and they basically told the sex educators that you cannot teach about sex, about female body, about male body. It's also connected to religion because Christian religion is a huge part of Polish society, of Polish culture right now, especially. But when it comes to those religious practices, we don't have any, although we also heard some stigmatizing comments from mostly from Catholic women, especially about menstrual cups. One woman told us that you cannot wear menstrual cup because you won't be able to get pregnant anymore, and the only way you would have kid after using menstrual cup would be thanks to in vitro. Or you cannot use menstrual cup because it's sinful. It's sinful because you're inserting something to your body, and it's like it's a sin. It's a devil's work. So those are the comments that we hear from the religious people of Poland. But thankfully, the narrative is changing, although slowly, but it's changing, and we are coming to the end of those stigmatizing comments.
Thank you, Magda. Also, Danielle shared with us another link about Global Menstrual Health Register. Can you tell us more about that link, please?
Sure. Since this is a nascent sector and we've been working to professionalize it, we want to be able to show who's doing what where around the world with regards to periods. So whether you're talking about period poverty or menstrual equity or menstrual health or menstrual poverty or menstrual freedom, there's lots of different words that are coming to the surface to absorb all of our attention and really be kind of at the forefront of our fight towards improved female health and gender equality. So if you're not already registered on here, it's a community platform we're going to be launching later this year, and it enables you to connect with others in your region or across the world, depending on very different elements. So whether it's you're working on a similar target audience, like a similar vulnerable group, or you have keywords like menstrual cups Rwanda, things will be easier for you to find. So essentially, social impact and progress is made when we professionalize, when we make money and value our work. And so this is just a step that's kind of needed to enable us to get to that space where we can walk into boardrooms and say, I have my period today. Can we have that meeting tomorrow? Rather than make up some excuse or pummel through it with horrible pain. So yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to add in listening to all these amazing experiences and stories, and thank you so much for enabling us to hear all of these things that happen in country. One thing that really comes to my mind is the importance of agency and being able to make your own choice. And I think what's required for that is accurate information and choice. And so when you talk about menstrual seclusion versus I really don't feel good today and I don't feel like hanging out with anyone, I'm going to stay in my bed and work from home, you have the choice to seclude yourself. No one's forcing you to seclude yourself. And I think that's really at the core of feminism, is that we can do whatever we want to do, that no one's influencing our choices, whether they're structural, religious, etc., that we are really doing things with our heart and our mind that are not tainted by what other people or society wants for us. So if we want to be secluded during those times because our progesterone is rising and we have pain and we're bloated and we feel like eating ice cream, that's okay. That should be your choice. And so, yeah, I think agency is always something that connects all of us gender advocates.
Thank you very much, Danielle. I think it is a very beautiful sum up of our debate. I would also like to invite you for our next debate. It will be held in 3 weeks, not 2 weeks. It's an exception, and it will be about intersectional and inclusive feminism. Of course, we will update you with on that event page, so that you may take part in the other one. And thank you very much for sharing your experience and your knowledge with us.
Thank you for organizing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.